The next one will be Robert Aucoin. He teaches at the School of Humanitarian Studies. His research uses a critical perspective to explore the use of Web 2.0 in adult learning environments. He's interested in exploring how technologies are used in personal learning and in work environments, and has conducted research into mobile learning, synchronous online learning, and social networking in educational environments. Aucoin has been teaching at Railroad since 2007 and has also served as the IT project manager in charge of Moodle development. And he has taught courses on history, philosophy, technology, and information literacy. He has worked in all regions of Canada, as well as in Zimbabwe, Bosnia, and Jordan. Most of his work revolves around creating innovative solutions to educational challenges for both learners and faculty. To facilitate this work, Aucoin created his own consultancy, Event Learning, with clients as United Nations, Commonwealth of Learning, Industry Canada, and the province of British Columbia. He has recently completed his AD in Educational Leadership and Policy Studies at UBC. So we have a YouTube video from him. He's going to talk about the use of blogs in courses. What did you choose blogs in courses?
Initially, I didn't choose blogs at all. My idea was to have my students engage in a self-reflection exercise so that they could reflect about what they were learning in the class and try to make connections between what they were doing in class and what they were doing in other classes and what they were doing in other parts of their lives. And initially, I didn't use blogs. I just had them write it out on a piece of paper and hand it in every week or so. And then I realized that if they did it in blogs, it would be more public. It would be more in tune with the course content, which was technology and society. And it would also allow their colleagues, their fellow students, and even their families, if they wanted, to comment on what they were learning, and then they could involve themselves in sort of a more engaged experience. And so I did that in the second iteration of this exercise, and it worked very well.
Which criteria did you use to choose it?
Mostly I went with something very simple. Most of my students already had some form of Google account, either through Gmail. So I just simply went with Blogger. It was quick and easy. It was a product that most people knew. The interface looks quite simple, and it was just something that everyone could access quite easily, and it would also be quite public.
Were you familiar with that when you chose it?
Yeah, I had used a number of blogs before. I had maintained a blog as part of my doctoral studies for a time on Blogger. I also know quite a few people who maintain blogs through Blogger as well. So as I said, it was a fairly easy decision for me.
Were there any challenges?
There are quite a few challenges, actually, mostly in the setting up of the blogs themselves. Once they were set up, it was quite easy. Most of my students are international students, and so there were challenges around language. Their accounts, because they had created their accounts when they were home in China or Saudi Arabia or wherever, the accounts were defaulting to their home language. And so when they would post, all the instructions, of course, were in their home language. And then if I needed to comment on their blog posts, it was very difficult for me to do that because I don't read Chinese or Arabic or any of these other wonderful languages.
What were your alternatives if you didn't use blogs?
I considered using a wiki, and I, to be honest, I haven't completely ruled that out as a wiki, because what I was looking for was a self-reflective exercise that other people could participate in. And a wiki would certainly function to do that. The one thing the wiki doesn't have, at least the way it's set up here at Royal Roads through Moodle, is it's not entirely public. And I wanted this particular exercise to be public so that people outside the class could access these materials if they wanted to.
Were you able to make a comparison of the difference of using and not using blogs in the course?
Not a formal one. I found students were certainly more interested in using the blogs than they were and just writing things on a piece of paper. That, of course, could just have been a novelty effect. It could also have been things like, at least in Blogger, when you make your posting, it automatically affixes a date to it. And I insist that my learners make at least one blog posting a week. So when the date pops up and they see that, and then of course they know that I know that as well, there's a certain intrinsic and extrinsic motivation to using blogs there. But in terms of quality of self-reflection and so on, no, I didn't do any evaluation.
How was the feedback from the students, if there were any?
It's really mixed. Some students really like it. In fact, I've had a number of students that have actually created second and third blogs to describe other aspects of their lives. I had one student a few years ago who created a blog to talk about his soccer playing. He plays on quite a popular, good soccer team here, and he was quite excited to share that with his friends and family back home, and it was actually quite popular. He wound up being interviewed by local media, which was quite exciting, and he still maintains that blog. Another student also created a secondary blog about the environment. She was very interested in environmental issues and so on. So some students really enjoy it, some students really get into it. Other students really struggle. Sometimes they're struggling with the technology, but usually they're struggling either with the language or struggling with the intent of the exercise, which is that self-reflective piece. It takes them most of the time of the course to be able to understand what it is to learn and then reflect about that learning and what that learning means to them.
What can you say to your colleagues that are interested on using blogs in courses?
The goals need to be really clear. There's really no point or utility in creating a blog just for the point of creating a blog. As a learning tool, it's something you can teach and learn in about 10 or 15 minutes. So the learning outcomes just associated with the blog are minimal. If you have an actual learning activity that lends itself to a blog, like these self-reflective exercises, then it can be very, very powerful. The challenge is less on the technical side and more on the pedagogical side. The pedagogical challenge, as I indicated earlier, is how do you explain to learners, how do you get them to understand what self-reflection means and why it might be important. What I wind up having a sizable proportion of my learners doing, probably about a third to a half, is they simply type up their notes from every week and put them into their blog. And that's fine as a start. And I tell them that you can, until you're comfortable with the blog and the exercise, that's fine, do that. But a lot of students never get beyond that, and they never really start to make the connection and so on. So my advice is to really have the blog or whatever technology you're using match the goal of the pedagogical exercise that you have in mind, and don't do it the other way around. Have the pedagogical exercise solid first and then find technology to meet that.
Thank you.
Thank you.